minty fresh. Wow, aren't we lucky to have heard that original recording of a young lady brushing her teeth with the very first electric toothbrush in 1541. Astonishing stuff. Hello, and welcome back to the final couplet with me, Theo Cowan. Just doing that intro. Sorry, not doing it. I wasn't doing it. I found it in the archives in the British Library. That is a real recording of a young woman brushing her teeth with an electric toothbrush, of course. But it made me think, have I put another recording of someone brushing their teeth at the start of an episode before? Honestly, at this point, there's been so many recordings, I just don't know. But if I have, I apologise for duplicating. Anyway, here we are in 2025. Forgot the year for a second there. We made it. Hooray! If you're listening to this, well done. Well done for making it. I hope you had a great festive period and ate and drank lots and had a nice time wherever you are in the world. Anyway, we've got to get on with another Shakespeare sonnet, haven't we? We can't dilly-dally around with the festive period. I'm actually recording this podcast by candlelight tonight. Not because I thought it would get me in the mood for another Shakespearean sonnet, but because the bulb in my light is blown. So here we are. Sonnet by candlelight. Hey, that would be a good evening, wouldn't it? If I did an evening of sonnets by candlelight. Wow, there's an idea. Something for the new year, I suppose. So today we're looking at Sonnet 87. And if you remember, the last few sonnets have all been about Shakespeare saying that he's been struggling to write and that he's worried about this other writer who seems to be also writing about his lover and is maybe better than him. We don't know. So let's take a listen to Sonnet 87, shall we? Farewell. Thou art too dear for my possessing, and like enough thou knowest thy estimate. The charter of thy worth gives thee releasing. My bonds in thee are all determinate. For how do I hold thee but by thy granting? And for that riches where is my deserving? The cause of this fair gift in me is wanting, and so my patent back again is swerving. Thyself thou gavest, thy own worth then not knowing, or me to whom thou gavest it else mistaking. So thy great gift upon misprision growing comes home again on better judgement making. Thus have I had thee as a dream doth flatter, in sleep a king, but waking no such matter. So there we have it, Sonnet 87, and it sort of feels like the end of a chapter, doesn't it? And look, I'm not going to get your hopes up. I'm almost certain this isn't the end of a chapter. He almost certainly keeps writing to this young lover of his. But we can always dream, can't we? Because this Sonnet 87, he's basically saying, look, farewell. He starts it with farewell. See you later. I'm done. I'm out. He's essentially saying he's not good enough for his lover anymore. And so he understands that his lover needs to move on to pastures new. I feel like we have had a few sonnets a bit like this in the past, but this one feels quite definitive. Anyway, let's break it down line by line and work out what the hell Shakespeare was going on about in Sonnet 87. So we start with farewell. Thou art too dear for my possessing. So farewell, obviously, see you later, goodbye. You're too valuable to be my possession anymore, essentially. And like enough, thou knowest thy estimate. And now you probably know how much you're worth. whereas before you probably didn't. He gets onto that a bit later. The charter of thy worth gives thee releasing. So because you're worth so much now, gives you the right to leave me. I totally get it. It's a bit of a strange way of putting it because it's almost devaluing the relationship before his young lover got some worth. So he was kind of saying, actually, when you were a bit worthless when I first met you, it was absolutely fine for me to possess you. But now I get you've got a bit of worth and you can leave me if you want. It certainly isn't the way that I would say this to my lover. But we know by this point that Shakespeare is not a conventional guy. My bonds in thee are all determinate. So you might have noticed that he seems to be using these financial terms, which again is quite strange. Sort of charter and bonds. Not the first things you think about when describing a relationship. But I think there's a play on words here with bonds, because it's a bond, between two people and financial bonds. And he's saying the bond is now broken, really. For how do I hold thee, but by thy granting? And here he's basically saying, look, what hold do I have over you anymore except for the hold that you gave me? It's all a bit strange. Don't say you have a hold over anyone. You should have never had a hold over your lover. If I could give one bit of advice here, Shakespeare, I would say drop the financial speak, if you can, and also probably don't talk about the hold you have over your lover, because that makes you sound like you're quite possessive and that they are just a thing to you. And for that riches, where is my deserving? So for your riches, your treasure, how do I deserve that? The cause of this fair gift in me is wanting. So he answers his own question here, really, about saying, do I deserve such riches as you? And the answer is no, I don't deserve you. I don't deserve the rich gift that is you. And so my patent back again is swerving. So again, with the term patent, he's sort of talking about the right and the hold he had over his lover. But he's saying the hold I did have over you, the right he had to be with you, his lover, is swerving back to him, is returning to him. AKA, he has no right anymore. I guess the question is, did he ever have a right? But in his head, I guess he did. Thyself thou gavest, thy own worth, then not knowing. So you gave yourself to me, but then you didn't know your own worth, really. Then he continues with, or me, to whom thou gavest it, else mistaking. So either you didn't know your own worth, or you mistook me for being better than I actually am. So thy great gift, upon misprision growing, comes home again on better judgement making. I'd never heard of the word misprision, but it's good to hear it in this. I sort of thought that he'd misspelt misprison, which also isn't a word, but it sounds better to me. Anyway, misprision means the deliberate concealment of one's knowledge of a treasonable act or a felony. And in this context, I think he means, so the amazing gift of love that you gave me was actually based on a falsehood and returns to you to make a better judgment. So the ball's now back in your court for you to make another judgment and choose someone else to be your lover. And now we're on to the final couplet. Thus have I had thee as a dream doth flatter, in sleep a king, but waking no such matter. So here he's saying the time when we were together was like a flattering dream. It was incredible. When I was asleep, I felt like a bloody king. But, and there's always a but, upon waking, I'm essentially left with nothing. It's very different when I'm awake. And that's why I'm saying farewell to you. We must part. Your too good for me, now you've got some worth. Before, it was fine. You were kind of worthless, pathetic little thing, and it was fine to be with me, but now you've found some worth and you can leave me. So there we have it, Sonnet 87, a very strange one. I think Shakespeare's lost his bloody mind with this one. He's bringing in financial sort of metaphors. He's talking about owning his lover, possessing his lover. He's talking about his lover's worth and how it was fine to be with his lover when he was worthless back in the day. It's all very strange, and quite honestly, I don't think he should have published this. And I hope to God his lover didn't read it, because if that was me, I'd be off instantly. I'd be, see you later, mate. Anyway, I think it's about time we put this to our story. And if you remember, God, this was a couple of weeks ago now, but in our story, Christopher Marlowe, who is Shakespeare's lover, has been sneaking off to go and see Ben Jonson, because Ben Jonson has been writing some fantastic poetry for him, and he's popped off, and he's actually met up with Ben Jonson in the middle of the night. But Shakespeare has followed him and had a look through the window, and he did see Ben Jonson writing with the help of some ghosts. But he actually realised that the ghosts weren't helping Ben Jonson write. It was actually Christopher Marlowe. And because Christopher Marlowe is such a beautiful, inspiring person, Ben Jonson's poetry has been beautiful and inspiring as well. So Shakespeare's come to the realisation that he needs to be with Christopher Marlowe to inspire his writing. And so he's told Christopher Marlowe that. He's confronted him and said, look, I know all about you and Ben Jonson, and that's actually been the reason why I haven't been able to write very well recently. So here's a sonnet to explain everything. Are you caught up? If not, maybe just go back and listen to the story in 86. It's only a couple of minutes. Let's see how Sonnet 87 fits into all this. Shakespeare finishes reading Sonnet 86 to Christopher Marlowe. Marlowe says, sorry, so the only reason you want to be with me is to inspire your writing? What a joke. I thought you loved me. Shakespeare says, yes, no, I do love you. I do love you. And that's the point. My love for you needs to come out in my writing because I love writing as well. Don't you get it? And Marlowe says, well, Ben Jonson actually loves me for me. And he's not even publishing his writing. You're publishing your writing and you're making a lot of money out of it. I've seen all of your other sonnets in various books around town, and they're charging a bloody fortune for them, for your little anthologies. And I'm sick of it, Shakespeare. Everything's for profit with you. Shakespeare says, Marlowe, you don't understand. I love you more than anything. And I need you in my life. I need you. I need you so that I can kiss you and hug you and make love to you. But also, as a sort of side product, you would be great inspiration for my writing. But that's a side thing, really. That is really a side thing. And Marlowe says, I don't believe you. He pushes Shakespeare aside and runs out of the house, crying. Shakespeare slumps down into the couch next to him. He's really put his foot in it this time. And he thinks to himself, you know what? Christopher Marlowe deserves better. I am a money-grabbing little rat. And when I first met Marlowe, he was pretty pathetic. And he did deserve someone like me. But now he's grown into a lovely, beautiful, honest man. And really he needs someone like Ben Jonson. And with that, Shakespeare went up to his little writing desk and penned Sonnet 87. That would explain everything to Christopher Marlowe and would essentially end their relationship forever. But, of course, Shakespeare being Shakespeare, he couldn't just break up like a normal person. He had to add a little flourish. So he went down to the Nag's Head pub, where he gathered some local musicians that were playing. He thought this would be the perfect flourish on the end of their relationship. A beautiful sonnet, written by William Shakespeare, accompanied with some stunning local music. He also gathered 200 red roses and handed them out to local peasant boys to throw at Christopher Marlowe as he recited his poem. So the stage was set. Shakespeare was ready for his big break-up sonnet. He knew exactly where Christopher Marlowe would be. So, along with the musicians and the peasant boys holding their little roses, they trudged to Ben Jonson's house. Shakespeare knocked on the door. Ben Jonson answered. "Ah, Shakespeare. He doesn't want to speak to you, you know." "Yes, I know, Ben Jonson. But I must read him this final sonnet." Ben Jonson laughs. "I don't think he wants to hear another bloody sonnet, Shakespeare." "Jonson, step aside, or I shall have to fight you." Jonson draws his sword. Shakespeare, too, draws his rapier. They stand off against each other. The musicians and the little peasant boys watch on. Just as they are about to lunge at each other, Christopher Marlowe runs out into the street and says, "Stop, boys, stop! This is ridiculous. You mustn't fight over me like this." Shakespeare says, "Marlowe, look, I know that you deserve someone better than me. I understand that. But I must perform to you one final sonnet, accompanied by these lovely gentlemen and their beautiful instruments." Marlowe says, Okay, I suppose you can read me one last sonnet." Ben Jonson says, "Marlowe, this is ridiculous. He can't..." And Marlowe puts a finger to his mouth, as if to say, "Shut up." Shakespeare cues the musicians, and they start playing a solemn ditty as the local peasant boys chuck roses at Christopher Marlowe quite aggressively, and actually it's a bit distracting. Shakespeare cleared his throat and read Sonnet 87. "Goodbye. You are too precious for me to hold on to, and you know your own worth. Your high value gives you the right to leave me. You have severed the ties that bonded us. I have no hold over you, other than the hold you chose to give me, and how do I deserve such amazing treasure? There is nothing I have done to deserve such riches. I have no right to possess you any more. When you gave yourself to me, you didn't know your own worth, or you mistook me for being worth more than I am. So the incredible gift of love you gave me was based on a falsehood, and returns to you to make a better judgment. The time in which you were mine was a flattering dream. When I slept, I felt like a king, but in waking, I am left with nothing." So there we have it, Sonnet 87. And is that the end of Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe's relationship? Surely it can't be. Well, tune in next week to find out. Until then, bye.